Every one of you watching this screen, look out!
Anything can happen in the next half hour.
What did I tell you about cartoons?
They've got a lot of brains, and they've got a lot of chutzpah.
Tell me how comic books make you feel, Dave.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious, and don't call me Shirley.
Okay, this is Frantz Kantor, cartoonist, illustrator, and ToonTalker, and I'm here with
Jim Bridges, and I'm the president of the Australian Cartoon Museum. And what the hell are we doing today?
Well, with the
Whiz Comics? I've never heard of Whiz Comics.
Well, there's a Shazam movie out, so we're going to try and
that one.
Yeah. So what we want to try and do is we'll talk about that too, because there's also some little cardboard. There's some cutouts, some activities that children do. You know, that they used to cut out and make these little dioramas and stuff like that. So we'll talk about that later on. Now, the history of Captain Marvel is fraught with litigation and lawsuits. And the reason is, in the early days, before Marvel Comics was Marvel Comics, they registered the name Marvel Comics, and for some reason, the publishers of Whiz Comics came out with a character in the 40s called Captain Marvel. The Captain Marvel was a
rip-off of Superman.
Yeah, it was kind of a superhero that can fly with a little cape and all this sort of stuff.
Well, I mean, the problem is it's Superman came from another. He's an alien, and this kid gets picked by this old guy. Well, we should do the story. He gets picked by this. So here's the typical rip-off, because in the first copy of Superman, he's holding up a car full of gangsters and he's about to throw it. But in this one, Captain Marvel's already thrown it, and the Tommy gun's coming out and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, so this is the first edition, February 1940. This is
after a while, he lost his cape because it was sort of like a Russian hussar or something like that, you know.
Hungarian
soldier or something. So here he is, Captain Marvel, and here is the original story, the original comic. So this kid's selling newspapers outside, and this bloke, really dark looking dodgy guy, says, you know, why aren't you home in bed, son? Oh, I have no home, sir. I sleep in the subway. It's warm there. Follow me. Now, why he follows him, I'm buggered if I know, because he looks really dodgy.
Before we do that, we'll get into the comics. Just have a look at Whiz Comics here. If you have a look at them, this is some of the other titles that they had. They had the Invincible Dan Dare, of course, which is an English...
No, it's a different one.
Oh, it's a different one?
Different one.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Already they're trying to muddy the water of copyright.
Well,
Spice Smasher was a...
Dan Dare, British guy, started in the 50s. We're talking 30s here.
Oh, okay.
Or 40s. What's the date here?
1940.
Here we are. Yeah, so it's a long time before that.
Ah, interesting. Okay.
Okay, move on.
The story.
So this guy takes him down to the subway, gets on a special train, and they go to a special place. The 7 deadly enemies of man, and he comes across this old bloke, and pretty old, with the world and the big book next to him, and he says he knows everything. And he's been around, and he knows who this kid is, Billy Baxter. And then he says Shazam.
Yeah.
And Shazam, then it says Solomon,
Hercules, Atlas, Zeus, Achilles, and Mercury.
That's what Shazam. And so all these people rolled up into one have the qualities, and he's like
wisdom, strength, stamina, power.
So he picks a kid, and every time this kid says Shazam, he gets turned into the adult. Like this, Shazam, blam, bang. And the old bloke tells him that there's this old guy who's starting up this problem and he has to be stopped. And meanwhile, there's this great big weight above his head. And as soon as he says, speak my name, he says Shazam, bang. There he is. He's now changed over. He's now taking on the job that the old bloke was doing all those years.
Yeah.
And then when he says it again, bang, the guy dies.
So this magazine outsold Superman.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
In the 1940s.
It was huge because it was also any kid could just say Shazam, you know. Whereas Superman, as I said, he's an alien. He comes from another culture.
Yeah. So the evil guy.
Yeah. This is Dr. Sivana. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's like a mad scientist. So that you know, a lot of the films in the 1940s featured mad scientists.
Yeah.
Dr. Frankenstein.
And before My Three Sons, a television show,
glasses.
Fred McMurray, who was the father
Dr.
on it, this character is actually
based on Fred McMurray.
Fred McMurray, because he was
From the
a
40s.
rising star, and so he smashes up all the, because what he's doing, he's controlling all the radios all over the world, this crazy professor. So Shazam smashes it all up, and then Shazam, and he speaks the magic word Shazam, and then we've jumped, boom, and then and so he gets a job as a reporter on radio.
Right.
So
as opposed to a reporter on the daily.
Yeah, that's right. And he's still a little kid, but
Yeah.
But Billy
So
almost let the cat out of the bag this time. Don't fail to be on hand next month when Captain Marvel go to town. And there it is. And so that's the original story. And
sweet.
Yeah, and then because of copyright problems, as you said, he became called
the original
Shazam.
Captain Marvel. You can see here Captain Marvel's hidden behind the.
Yeah, well, they're trying to tell a story. It's a very complicated story, and there's quite a few longish videos with lots of information about the background to the court cases and all that sort of stuff. So here's a typical story of the monster. He's the crazy professor
Sivana, yeah.
and he's got him. He throws him in jail.
Yeah.
But when he's doing it, see, his part of his cloak gets caught in the door, which the mad professor. Oh, there's a tear. There's a mad professor works out about voodoos, and so he makes a little doll out of that little bit that's come off his cape.
Yeah, so
and then
voodoo was a popular trope as well in the 1940s.
Yes,
I walk with a zombie and all those sort of things came out, so people are familiar with this sort of funny little thing.
But because he's so strong, instead of just like seeking opinion, it just itches him. It doesn't hurt him. It just itches him. Anyway, in the process of the court case, he crawls away. It's pretty corny. All this stuff is pretty corny stuff, but the kids loved it. It was really designed for kids, and here he is. So he's put the doll in a freezer, and therefore he's become frozen. Now he's trying to hit him with an axe, all that sort of stuff.
So so this is really it's the storylines are fairly young, I would say.
Very young, and they were sort of quite silly. Where
the artwork, you can
adults were reading Superman,
So they actually did a really good job on keeping the character on model. In all of the little drawings.
He's frozen.
They're really interesting.
He's frozen.
Yeah, but across the board, right across every page, they've drawn really well. Kept the character on
Except
model.
I can't see much of Fred McMurray personally.
And the idea of early printing, of course, red was one of the... red was a combination of yellow and magenta, so they'd print a magenta over the yellow, and you get this sort of red.
Yeah. And
it was
here he is trapped. Here he's
colour.
trapped, and because he doesn't pay his electricity bill, the mad professor, the electricity goes off, which means that the fridge it melts, and so it can get away and he can fly, and he's sent into a volcano.
Yeah. Look at this action shot here.
Yeah.
I mean, this is very typical of a kid's comic.
Yeah.
So nothing really dangerous. You don't have any sort of, the BAM is out of frame almost. It's already happened, and he's seeing stars.
Yeah.
So this is very young sort of rendition of violence.
Yeah.
In a superhero comic.
And they had all these.
So this had a very wide young audience.
Yeah, and they had all these sort of things in.
Not so much teenagers.
They had these sort of things for kids to do, like the changing. The next story is about a bloke who keeps changing.
Which is again more activities for little kids.
Yeah, and so you could make these things. So, for instance, Captain Marvel there, he knocks the guys heads off.
Yeah.
But they keep on getting replaced. So it's like, and there's another head, and another one there.
Yeah.
Another one there. Another one there.
So they're
another
playing
one there.
with colour here. They've changed his colours.
Yeah, until you end up with this. So
why is he blue? We don't know.
well, a whole stack of families came along. There was Mary Marvel, and they all say different things.
Oh, this is a different Shazam.
No,
Captain Marvel Jr.
This is Junior. That's right. And so this is a man with 1,000 heads who actually, he does all these robberies with different heads.
Right.
And
look at that. That's really good.
Yeah, and of course, I mean, you wouldn't put this in an adult story because it's too ridiculous.
It's silly, yeah.
And here's this guy, he's got all these paper mache heads.
To choose from, yeah.
And here he puts Captain Marvel Jr. in a guillotine, and he just gets away and says Captain Marvel in time to go boom. And of course, look, this is what happens to the guillotine. So he does this joke where he puts that out, and the guy thinks his head's chopped off, but it's not, and he catches it. And they had posters and stuff. Beautiful,
That wasn't done then, that's for
No, but they've just done this, and there's
the original Captain Marvel.
Yeah, and there's this character, Mr. Tawny, who's a tiger, who walks around. He's a tiger, and in this story, he tries to lose weight. So they've got all these, and the stories are pretty silly, but kids love them because they were sort of pies in the face and sort of falling over, and
It's a lot of slapstick.
And that's the family. There's all these people ended up in the story. All the characters that he added to them. There's the original old bloke, and then there's
Savannah.
Yeah.
So these are all the regular characters in the show.
Yeah, and he's holding up, and it tells you a full key to the picture appears on such and such.
Yeah.
And I mean, this guy, now it's
1940s.
obviously drawn by someone different. I think this guy did Superman, didn't he?
Schaffenberger?
I think he did Superman. And this is a long story. So here's the three of them fighting. There's
Yeah.
Mary Marvel and Junior, and I think they just made him blue. I don't know, little boy blue. Who knows? And here they are. And there's a lot of mythological characters in the these are the ice people, and they fight centaurs and all sorts of stuff in these stories.
Right.
So they're mixing, Kirby did it with Thor and all that sort of stuff, but they were much more sort of over the top. At least like with Kirby, the Thor stories.
Yeah.
They sort of tried to stick to some of it, and here are all the characters. There's Solomon, there's Hercules, there's Atlas, there's Zeus, Achilles, and Mercury, and there he is there in a.
So these are all the character traits that embody Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's a frozen horror. The story continues. It's a long story. He's got ice in his head, so he headbutts the dog.
Yeah.
Breaks the ice, blah blah blah.
Yeah, it is a long story.
Yeah, and this is the mistake of Father Time.
Yeah.
In this, do you remember in the first Superman film that he turns the world backwards? He flies backwards to save Lois.
Yeah.
Well, this actually, the whole comic is back to front. Like he says, "Oh, it's crashed. If only I got here sooner." And too late, see? So then it goes backwards. Then the whole comic goes backwards because.
So they can play with it. So like
so the whole
Plastic Man. Sorry, the stories are very flexible for younger readers.
Yes, well that's right. Very well. The younger they are, the more flexible they are the stories. And so
the world that they're building doesn't have to be so tight.
And you see, there's Father Time. Father Time's a character.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think he's ever been a character in any comic before.
Interesting, though, the world's going backwards, so he's running backwards. Speed lines are going forward here.
Yeah.
But you've also got...
And there's the plane that he,
Yeah, but you've also got, the dust clouds of him walking. So they're going in front of him. So he's actually going
But then it
backwards.
starts, then it's the other way, see?
Yeah, so then it reverses.
Yeah.
That's an interesting device.
Well, I mean, and so kids sort of get stuck, because kids have more imagination as they're younger, I reckon. And this was just a thing, you've got to find the faces. There's a face.
Yeah.
There's a face for the kids. And this
That's
is
a lot of... and
Mary Marvel.
A pin-up page too.
Yep, and there's,
Trying
the black magician.
To woo the teenage
See,
market.
I mean, look, he looks like, he doesn't have the flair of Gandalf, does he? But this is about animals and this guy who hunts and stuff, and he gets upset, and then he goes to the wizard, and
Is it beautiful?
and the wizard turns everybody into animals.
Yeah.
See this? And then this
Got a
is
typical
now
1940s
she
hairdo.
says Shazam too, but because she's
Selena,
Mary, it's
Hippolyta,
Selena.
Ariadne, Zephyrus, Aurora, and Minerva.
Yeah. And that's funny. Those capital letters seem to spell out a queer word or name, something like Shazam. As soon as she says Shazam, bang, you know. So it goes on. So it's a bit silly, and I have a feeling that this new film, I haven't seen it yet, just started, but it's obviously not going to be like the usual Marvel films.
No, it can't. This
And I think
character is not
it's
that
aimed at a
serious.
smaller. It's
Young,
aimed
very
at a
young
much
market.
Yeah.
But it's also, you know, this is a time where
So
there
this
weren't
is-
many superheroes on the market, so this
Yeah,
was
that's
more
right.
acceptable.
That's right. This is 40s. This is the
Yeah,
beginning of the
you-
war. And there's, see, he takes him along for the ride because he's fat and all that.
Yeah, so in a way, this is almost a parody of a superhero theme.
Yeah.
Like the Tick.
Yeah. And see, here it is. They go to the circus and they're fighting two-headed people and centaurs. I mean, you know,
Look at that.
yeah, he's got all his heads. And, of course, he's trying to play the music, which is
Whirling
turning him into a
dervish.
whirly dirt, which is another trope
Gotcha.
that's sort of, I mean, he's really mixing their metaphors, aren't they? You know, whirling dervishes with centaurs. And, you know, kids would love all this stuff with two-headed, you know, blokes and string. Look at that shot there. Anyway, and
So
of course,
it's a lot of fun.
yeah, and of course he was turned into a serial, the character, and he was, you know, he's pretty popular.
Yeah, well, 1940s.
Yeah.
It's where the
And
series
they were fighting the
started.
Nazis, and here's a tabletop diorama thing that the kids can make themselves, and it's busted.
Let's have a look.
Yeah,
Fix it up.
yeah.
Show us the
The head one.
rolling heads again.
Yeah.
So it was a character with multi-heads.
Yeah. So he keeps on knocking. Doesn't matter how many times you knock, he knocks them all the heads off.
Yeah.
And here is so this is Remy says Shazam, and suddenly the lightning comes, and you know.
Yeah.
And
so
is,
this was a diorama that
Yeah.
you could make yourself,
Yeah.
little kids to watch and put on your shelf or your desk, whatever.
yeah, and he got a bit of depth there, you know,
Yeah, so it was
a bit of Johnny Depp there. Yeah.
Johnny Depp.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
We shouldn't use that
Pirates
word
of the Caribbean.
because every time I say Johnny Depp or Walt Disney, you turn into a monster, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So this is Captain Marvel, the original Captain Marvel.
Is Shazam a Jewish word? Is that a...
No.
It's not. Okay.
No.
All right. Okay.
So Captain Marvel, this is the original Captain Marvel, of course, is Shazam, which
Yeah.
is the title of the thing. The original Captain Marvel's hidden because of the litigation with Marvel Comics, obviously.
Yeah.
And the character was at one time not owned but distributed by DC,
Yeah.
which is obviously a Marvel.
And the other thing is, you see, the story's about this guy who's who's a kid,
Billy Baxter.
and all he has to say is Shazam, and dang, he turns into him. And I mean,
and that was a popular
yeah,
idea for kids.
it's a great fantasy idea.
they can
It's
be-
yeah,
Instead of like being born an alien on
Yeah.
on Krypton,
Yeah.
you can find a magic cave or something and realize your destiny. So any kid, like a lottery, any kid can become Shazam.
And I bet you I had an episode where someone said Mazash backwards, and of course other things happen to the story too.
Yeah, well, the whole idea of this, that they have, it's really it's a superhero parody.
Yeah.
So anything is possible. These
Yeah.
are for little kids.
Okay, well, this is Jim Bridges saying Shazam.
Yeah, and 10 cents, cheap at half the price.
Okay, see you later.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for the sour persimmons, cousin.